Welcome to episode 37 of the Talking Friars podcast. I'm here, your host, Ben Fadden, with a special guest today, Braden Surprenant. Does some pregame, postgame stuff for 97.3 The Fan. He's the producer for the John Quintero Show. Braden, thanks so much for taking some time to talk with me today.
Yeah, man, no worries.
All right, first off, so Padres are obviously coming into the All-Star break here. They're 53 and 40. If you take injuries, players underperforming, players who have performed well, into kind of effect here, how would you grade the ceremonial first half of the season for the Padres?
I'd probably give them like a B. I mean, at this point in time, record wise, you have to, throw in there that, they're 53 and 40, which is, 13 games above 500, something that we haven't seen out of the Padres in a very long time. So that's very positive and encouraging. But, the way that they play against some teams that are not nearly as good as them, I think is a cause of concern a little bit. And the way, obviously where the team sits right now is a lot different than where they sat on April 1st or whenever we started this 2021 season when it comes to injuries in their starting rotation. Obviously Yu Darvish on the 10-day IL, Blake Snell on the 10-day IL. I don't think those are going to be long-term IL stints. I would imagine Blake Snell will probably be back by the time the All-Star break is over. And then Yu Darvish is eligible to return on the 19th. So I don't expect him to miss too much time either. It sounds like we got some promising news out of Ryan Weathers. Padres expecting him to be back hopefully by August, which in the grand scheme of things, I think they really dodged a bullet in that sense. So they got some guys banged up. They really need to get healthy. And, this is the time now to really kind of make a push here, for October, because you got 69 games left. You're going to have a lot more off days in the second half of the season, as well as a very favorable schedule that, seems favorable on paper. But the way the Padres are playing, who knows? Maybe it'd be better off if they're playing the top teams in baseball, because they seem to be doing a lot better against those teams than teams like the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah. Eric Hosmer, he's taken a lot of the heat from Padre fans. While some of it, it's warranted, some of it is. Some of it's off the field, some of it's on the field. Do you think though, that fans are a little bit being unfair to him, at least as of late, because he has, if you're watching these games, he has started to have better at bats. I know the defense hasn't been there, but he has had better at bats as of late.
Well, I think, not only Eric Hosmer, it was Tommy Pham at the beginning part of the season, right? And you're going to go through over a 162 game season. You're going to get more knee-jerk reactions when it comes to fans, because fans are very passionate. And this is a team and an organization that has not had many years of having, great success. So it's natural to kind of have this, expectation of, especially coming from the organization and coming from the members and the media and the players themselves about how this team's going to be very, very good, to not have, this ability of just having everybody play exceptionally well the entire season, because you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. And I've said it before, and, Eric Hosmer's not playing, as great as he was maybe last season. But that being said, not only does he have the track record, but everybody on this team has a track record, to turn things around, and that they have the ability to do so. So, I'm not overly concerned about Eric Hosmer. I'm not going to be sitting there saying the Padres need to get rid of him at the trade deadline or get out of the contract. Obviously right now, the way it sits and how much money he's making, he's not living up to what the contract is, but you got to give everybody the same amount of time to get back into the swing of things. And this team is going to go far with Eric Hosmer being, hopefully the Eric Hosmer that, you expected to have when you signed him in the first place. I don't know what's going on with Eric when it comes to his day-to-day, but, he is putting better at bats together, and, he's done really well in the clutch. But it seems to me it's like, especially for Padres fans, they're used to seeing him hit it to the gap, get extra base hits, put the ball over the fence. And, when he's got 7 home runs right now, it's not going to cut it, for a team that really wants to compete and be there at the highest level. So I think the fact that everybody else around him is playing well too is not really helping his cause. I mean, the entire infield is an all-star, except for Eric Hosmer right now. But I think he still has the ability to turn it around, and we'll see what happens. I mean, again, last year, he had a lot better of a season last year, led the team in RBIs. I mean, he's getting almost 100 RBIs every single season with the San Diego Padres. So maybe moving him down in the order, we'll get him going again. And it looks like he's already starting to get back into the swing of things a little bit for the Padres' sake. And they could really use his bat at the end of the season. I talked about it with Jesse and Tony a couple of times when it comes to, when you get the trade deadline, if you can get Will Myers and Eric Hosmer playing, as good as they were last year, I mean, that's basically like adding two bats, to your team instead of having to give anybody up. So, hopefully he turns it around. I don't think he deserves the kind of hate that a lot of fans are giving him. I think a lot of fans might be doing that from a personal standpoint as well, but you saw it with Tommy Pham. You're going to see it with a lot of players. They're going to go through ups and downs, and you just can't have that knee-jerk reaction of we need to replace the entire team at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why Hosmer doesn't deserve, getting, bashed or thinking that, oh, they need to get rid of his contract, like you were saying, is because of what he can do in the clutch, what he did earlier in this year against the Dodgers and what they were the biggest games of the season to that date, coming through at, that Friday game. I know they lost it, but he came through with the game tying RBI, the Sunday game that weekend, game tying RBI and the go ahead RBI. The Sunday night baseball game at Dodger Stadium, the go ahead sac fly. So he does produce in the clutch, and I feel like he's one of those guys that he he goes about his business. He knows what he's doing. Obviously, his record shows that. And I think so. It's a little premature to just, emotionally react, but that's what fans do. So it's not really that surprising that, fans want to. I've looked on Twitter, fans saying that Hosmer, in the on deck circle is like just disgusts me. Like that's a little too far in my opinion. You haven't even seen what he did in that at bat. I went to the game yesterday. Fans were leaving when Hosmer came up with 2 outs in the ninth. He singled to keep the rally going. I know it wasn't really a rally, but he again in the clutch when they needed to, he got on. Moving to Manny, finally got to the All-Star game. It was well overdue. In the middle of the fourth inning on Saturday, that it played on the jumbotron. Is there a way that you could explain why Major League Baseball it took this long for him to get in?
Well, the voting process is a pain anyway. I was talking about this with Jesse yesterday. I mean, that's always kind of a fluke. So, you get the fans to vote regardless of what the play. It's basically a popularity contest. Obviously, Nolan Arenado for an organization like the St. Louis Cardinals that has a big backing, he's going to get a nod. Chris Bryant, who hasn't played like really anything at third base, I mean, probably only a handful of times this season, mostly in the outfield, was listed as a third baseman on the ballot. So those are two knocks, to Manny from the get-go. And then after that,
Oh, his connection. We might have lost him. Let's see.
two third basemen are going to be your two third basemen would be Justin Turner and Manny Machado.
Yeah, I kind of lost you there in the middle of your answer. So just could you briefly go over that one more time?
Yeah, so the process of the All-Star game in general is just kind of, I wouldn't say a joke, but it's kind of ridiculous when it comes to electing these starters. And that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the ballot. So you got two third basemen on the team already, and Nolan Arenado and, Chris Bryant. And then, if Arenado, if there wasn't a fan vote, I mean, your two third basemen probably would have been Justin Turner and Manny Machado if you're talking about statistics. And Chris Bryant, like I was saying, he's an outfielder. He's not playing third base right now for the most part for the Chicago Cubs. So that kind of didn't help out Manny Machado at all. I'm just glad he gets to make the All-Star game. I think it's well deserving. The way he has kind of really carried the team when a lot of injuries have happened, and he's been able to really get this team going, not only from a on the field perspective, but from a clubhouse perspective as well, has been outstanding.
Mm. Moving to Manny's manager, Jayce Tingler. It's kind of been a season and a half now. I know not really because it was 2 months last year, 3 months kind of if you count October. How would you assess Tingler so far in this second season?
I think he's still learning on the fly. I think you noticed at the beginning part of the year, the way that the bullpen is managed. But, for the most part, I think he does a really good job. And managers nowadays, I mean, they're managing personalities more than they're doing really the strategy. I mean, in-game strategy, obviously the manager's calling the shots, but, batting order and lineups and the way that they do things, that's a collective conversation as a front office. And with the way analytics are and stuff. So you can't really judge too much on Jayce Tingler on that. But as long as he can get the team pulling the rope in the right direction, I mean, that's all that you really need from Jayce Tingler. He's a smart baseball man, and the guys like playing for him. I mean, that's ultimately what you need out of a manager. And as of right now, I mean, he had a winning record last year. He's 13 games above 500 right now, and everybody wants to blame the manager when things go awry. I really don't think Jayce Tingler's really cost the Padres too many games this season, and he's doing his thing. I like Jayce Tingler as a manager, and I obviously I think the players do too, and that's ultimately the biggest thing you need out of a manager is get the players to play for you, and it seems like he's got that right now, and again his record proves that.
And do you think that, well, at least I do. I don't know about you. Do you think that he's kind of actually helped this team win games late because he's kept players in games, whether they're, pissed off at something for a call, and he runs out there and makes sure that they're not the ones thrown out? Just what would you say about him backing up the players and how big of a role that plays in him obviously earning respect in that clubhouse?
Well, he does a good job of, being a manager. I mean, that's what you have to do when you're a manager. You have to, take care of your guys and, step in for them and make sure that, nothing goes awry when it comes to your star players, which he definitely does. I thought last year you were able to see a little bit more of Jayce Tingler when it comes to managing, just because it was such a short season. And he said he had to treat every game like a playoff game. I mean, he was utilizing guys in ways that they could best asset the team, having Jorge Mateo pinch run, throwing Austin Hedges in the game late as a defensive replacement, something that he is better at doing than he is at hitting. Try to get using a catcher that can hit more in the game, and then when it comes down to being able to field, throwing Austin Hedges in at the beginning part of last season. I mean, those kind of little moves. I think are a big reason why they've had a lot of success in using your talent to their best ability. I think is something that Jayce Tingler does very well. You obviously can't do that every single game of a 162 game season. Can't be constantly moving guys in and out and all that sort of thing. But I think last year is a better example of what he could do, from a manager's perspective than maybe this year. But he's done a great job in doing all the rules as a manager, not only in the clubhouse but on the field and keeping his team in ball games.
Yeah, moving to Mark Malanson, going into the year, there was kind of a big four, if you will. Keone Kela, Mark Malanson, Drew Pomerantz, and Emilio Pagan. It kind of seemed like in spring training that it would be kind of like there wouldn't be one, real closer. But Mark Malanson, to his credit, maybe he's the one that said that, hey, I really want to be the closer, while everyone else, like Drew Pomerantz and guys like that, they were just saying, yeah, I'll do whatever role Tingler wants me to, have. He's pitched really well. He's obviously earned this all-star appearance. But the only question I would have for you, and the only question, in terms of Malanson, is his durability, I guess. I know he's a veteran. I know that he's done this, year in, year out. But do you believe that he can keep this up, the entire year at the rate that they're using him, so that he's, ready to go come October?
He looked like he's, kind of tired at this point. I mean, he's used a lot. The bullpen's been used more than any other bullpen in Major League Baseball. And, obviously in the second half of the season, the Padres are hoping that they can get more out of their starting pitching, which right now is really banged up on the injured list. He's a professional. He's going to get guys out. I mean, the rate that they're using him is at I think at an alarming rate. I don't imagine down the stretch they're going to use him to that kind of use, but you got some reinforcements coming back. It sounds like they're optimistic that Drew Pomerantz will be coming back sooner rather than later. Matt Strom's going to be coming back too, and I know those are not closing type guys, but it gives you more flexibility in your bullpen. I don't think it's the time to panic yet on Mark Malanson. He's done an outstanding job, and as long as he gets guys out, it doesn't really matter, even though he's a little bit more unconventional from a closing perspective. Not one of those guys that blows you away, but he gets you out. And I think the couple days off here is going to be nice. I'm sure he'll get, we'll see if he gets an inning or so in the All-Star game. But he's a professional that's been there and done that before. And you're going to go through some spells. I mean, it happens to the best closers in baseball. Roldis Chapman's not having a good time in New York. I mean, we've seen Craig Kimbrell get lit up a handful of times throughout seasons for him as well. So he started going down the list. I mean, Kenley Jensen, who a lot of people give a hard time about in the Dodgers bullpen. I mean, he's been lights out for the Dodgers in so many different years. And then when he gets overworked, all of a sudden it's just not the same. So being able to manage the way you use Mark Malanson and hopefully the Padres, here's the deal. Hopefully the Padres are blowing teams out in the next month and a half. So you don't need to use your closer for a handful of days. That's the other part too. It's, he's got the most saves in baseball, which you think is like, that's great because we're winning baseball games, but it'd be better to beat teams by more than 3 runs every once in a while and give your closer a rest every couple days.
Exactly. Moving to the deadline approach, a lot has been said, about Joey Gallo, and I think that is really a dumb decision. I don't think that there's any chance of that happening. But just for the pitching wise, starting rotation obviously seems like the real need. At least one guy. People are gonna make it. 2 out of 5 starters are healthy right now, but Tingler said it in post game yesterday that a lot of them are going to be ready for post All-Star break, like Blake Snell starting the Washington series. He thinks Darvish should be ready for Atlanta. But with that said, the back of the rotation is a little bit more uncertain with the Weathers injury, and Paddock just not being consistent enough. So how important is it for Preller in your estimation to go out and get another starter?
Well, there's not a lot of starters out there. That's problem number one. I mean, you're going to have to get, somebody like a Danny Duffy. You're going to have to get somebody like a Kenta Maeda. You're going to have to get someone like a, not one of those like big time arms that we're used to seeing, like he's not going to be able to find a Mike Clevenger at this point in time. Max Scherzer, it sounds like he might stay with Washington. We'll see what happens. I mean, they just had a bad weekend in San Francisco. They have another bad weekend against San Diego this weekend. And, they might be sellers at the deadline, and who knows if they part ways with Max Scherzer or not. But, I mean, they're going to have to outbid some of the other teams in baseball for a starting pitcher as well, because they're not the only team that needs starting pitching. I mean, you go down the list of all the contenders, they could all use some starting pitching. I think the Padres, it sounds like that AJ Preller's got something up his sleeve, and he's looking to wheel and deal at the trade deadline just like he always does. And I wouldn't count anything out at this point with him. I mean, he pulls off moves that you would never even think would happen, and then you go, I can't believe we acquired so and so. What did we give up? And then you look at it and you're like, I don't even know any of these names. So AJ Preller knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's got the track record to show that. Once the draft is over, I'm sure the focus is going to be geared to how do they improve the major league roster when it comes to players that may or may not be available, and we'll see what teams are, all of a sudden turning into sellers at the trade deadline. It'd be nice to get a starting pitcher, but if you can get Blake Snell to be where he was, not even like half of what he was last postseason. I mean, there's a reason why you brought him in. If you get him right, you got your 3 starters right there, and you're not going to need 5 starters in the playoffs in Major League Baseball. You only need 3, and if you're 1, 2, 3 is Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove and Blake Snell, Padres are in a good opportunity to win baseball games. So. I think it's a need because it's a need for everybody. You got to get some more pitching depth, but I wouldn't be expecting a big time, ace type player. I mean, you're going to be getting like a Kenta Maeda or a Danny Duffy or, some of those type of players.
Yeah, Kyle Gibson's an intriguing name, though. I did want to run that by you. What do you think of Kyle Gibson? And I don't know his contract status right now, but he's obviously having an all-star season, and maybe a team like the Padres want to, try to ride that out.
I think he might be in his last year. I can't remember. I know the Rangers kind of just like took a waiver on him. I mean, his career ERA is over 4, so he's kind of really pitching out of his shoes right now. which you got to strike when the iron's hot. So if you got a guy that's putting that together, you're in good shape. I can see the Padres doing a blockbuster deal where they get Kyle Gibson and a guy like Joey Gallo. I mean, obviously, AJ Preller knows that organization well. Not only that, Jayce Tingler knows that organization well. So I think it's an intriguing name too. But again, he's not the only. Padres aren't the only ones that need starting pitching. So a guy like Kyle Gibson is going to be somebody that a team like maybe the Dodgers are going to need, or somebody else that's contending, to try to make that final push. He's owed $10 million this season. So by the time you get him, he'll probably be just under 5. And then he's owed $7 million next year, and he's a free agent in 2023. So I think Kyle Gibson is an intriguing name. I think that's one to be on the lookout for. But who knows what the Rangers are going to want in order to acquire Kyle Gibson or Joey Gallo or both at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that the Padres, where they are right now, obviously, the answer to this question is no if, the offense keeps playing the way they did against Colorado. But do you believe 6 games back in the NL West, you still think that they're in good position to win the division?
I think they have an opportunity to win the division. I don't think the 6 games is unobtainable, especially with the schedule that the San Francisco Giants have to play. Now you have to leapfrog 2 teams at this point, and you've proven that you could beat both of them. I know the Padres are 1 game under 500 against the Giants right now, but I'd take the Padres over the Giants in the 3-game, 4-game series, which they're going to have to do a handful of times here in the second half of the season. But I think a couple of things are working in the Padres' favor. One, the Giants have a lot tougher schedule in the second half, but also the Giants have a lot of older veterans that are all injury prone. I mean, they're all guys that have suffered injuries in the past. I mean, Mike Yastrzemski is one of their young guys, and he's 31 years old, and he's been on and off the IL. Alex Dickerson has been on and off the IL his entire career. You start going down the list. Brandon Crawford is an IL guy almost every single year. Evan Longoria is on the IL right now. Brendan Belt's a guy that gets hurt a lot. Buster Posey's a guy that gets hurt a lot. I mean, for them to try to stay through the entire season, I think is going to be very difficult. Now, the intriguing part is, what is Farhan Zaidi going to do as the general manager of the San Francisco Giants? Because that is a wheeler and dealer general manager, just like AJ Preller is with the San Diego Padres. And if he's got any type of window to try to go win now and improve the team before their quote unquote, time of being really good, because they got a lot of money to spend during the offseason into making this ball club a lot better. I mean, he's going to be able to make some moves and make something happen. So I think it'll be easier to evaluate after the trade deadline, see what the San Francisco Giants end up acquiring. But I think the Padres can catch the Giants. Now, the other wild card is whether or not the Dodgers get hot, because they haven't played their best baseball yet this year. And they're going to be a tough team to beat, and their schedule's favorable in the second half, just like the Padres is. So September is really going to be the where the West is won. I mean, you got the Giants, Dodgers, and Padres playing each other a lot, and all 3 teams, you got pretty tough schedules down the stretch. But 6 games in 69 days to try to make up, it's definitely obtainable. But the Padres need to start taking care of business against teams that they are better than, and that's going to be the biggest factor, I think, in the whole story.
Yeah, and that includes beating teams like the Rockies, which they weren't able to do this weekend. Last thing, Padres first round, they select Jackson Merrill, shortstop, out of a high school in Maryland. Do you know anything about this guy? I know fans have been kind of wanting to know. Yeah, fans, casual fans at least, they're like, shortstop, what? Well, but this isn't the NFL. This isn't the NBA. He's not going to be here next year. And like AJ Preller said in the presser after, and Mark Connor said, they're not looking to draft position, players. They're looking to draft players up the middle who can play other positions. And, you see it around the diamond. Pham played shortstop in high school. Tatis obviously is shortstop. Manny was a shortstop at one time. Cronenworth was a shortstop at one time. So my point is, they want guys who are athletic and guys who play up the middle, because those guys are usually the best athletes. Do you have anything else on Jackson Merrill?
I've never seen Jackson Merrill play. Don't know too much about him, but yeah, I mean, that's just kind of drafting 101. I mean, even in the NFL and in the NBA, they're trying to draft the best available. So whatever the Padres board was at the time, the best available player is who they're probably going to draft. It doesn't matter position by position. I'm trying to get the best guy every single time. When you start drafting by position needs, you start running into issues because, you're not necessarily drafting the best guy that's available to you. And it's better to have, better players in loaded areas than just have a mediocre across the board, just to try to fill positions. So I think the Padres have taken the recruiting outlook like they do in college. I mean, in college baseball and in college softball, you're scouting shortstops. I mean, that's what you're doing. I mean, it's the most athletic, usually the most athletic player on the field, which means they can play other spots. And I want athletes all over the place. And the Padres have done that with their team. Jerickson Profar came up as a shortstop. You're mentioning Jake Cronenworth, shortstop. Manny Machado, shortstop. Fernando Tatis Jr., obviously a shortstop. Austin Nola played shortstop at LSU, and that's no slouch of a program for the collegiate level. I mean, your entire team is almost shortstops right now, and that's a good thing. So they're obviously drafting an athlete. He's got a very good size body. He's tall. He's got the ability to put on some good muscle too, and really develop for the Padres. So yeah, I wouldn't pay attention too much to the positions that they draft, and more importantly, just kind of the body the guy has and the athleticism that they have. Aside from when you're talking about drafting by position, unless you're drafting pitchers, everything else is I'm trying to find the best athlete on the board.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention C.J. Abrams, another shortstop who probably is going to end up changing positions.
Athlete,
go.
right? Yeah, athlete. I mean, they drafted him. Obviously, he's hurt right now, and some people were saying, well, maybe they drafted the shortstop because they're going to get rid of C.J. Abrams, and like the answer is no. I mean, they're going to continue to sign international free agent shortstops, and they're going to continue to draft shortstops, and and as much as those kids probably think that they are aspiring to be a shortstop at the major league level, if you get the opportunity to play at the major league level sooner, if you play a different position, I would imagine most of those kids are going to say yes to that question.
Yeah, exactly. All right, this has been episode 37 of the Talking Friars podcast with Braden Surprenant. I'm Ben Fadden. That was really fun. Thanks so much, Braden, for doing this.
Yeah, no worries, man. Anytime.